BYA in Marion, Cheyenne, Wyoming. On the same topic, Bill, I want to know more about religious persecution, especially of Christians and other non-Muslims living in Iraq. I've read many horror stories. Are the Iraqis making any progress in this area? And Mary, unfortunately, the horror stories are true. And David McDougal now tracks down the history in the city of Mosul based on what we're learning now and how the violence has been traced to al-Qaeda. David McDougal here in Iraq.
It's the worst violence against Iraq's Christian community in 2 years. In the north of the country, Mosul's Christian residents are under attack and running for their lives. Some estimates say as many as 15,000 people have fled their homes in recent weeks, terrified, after a dozen Iraqi Christians were killed by gunmen. 3 Assyrian Christian homes firebombed.
He was my cousin. They knocked on his door, asked him if he was Christian. He said yes, and they shot him dead.
This church is where many families have come to seek refuge, hoping the sacred walls will protect them from the violence outside.
They came to Al-Qaeda fleeing their homes. They don't know anything about their future. They don't know if they will go back, so the church took them in.
It's perhaps no coincidence that as violence against Christians has increased, so too has the fight against al-Qaeda forces in Mosul. And while the Iraqi government is sending extra police, these residents are taking security into their own hands, standing vigilant outside their homes against the killers. Killers who have struck such fear into the heart of Mosul's Christian community.
David McDougal with me live here now. He's covered this story for the past 5 years, and good evening to you, David. The one thing that we learned about Mosul is that al-Qaeda is still active there. If that's the case, what is the Iraqi government doing? What is the U.S. military doing to chase them out of there?
Bill, Mosul really is the last stronghold of al-Qaeda in Iraq. They've been moved further and further north by successive security crackdowns. The Iraqi government, very much aware of the problems of the Christians in Mosul, is sending extra police up there. But at the moment, as we saw in that piece, the Christians are having to guard themselves.
Wow. I mentioned you've been here 5 years. What do you think the people back at home need to understand about the conflict today?
I think people at home really need to understand how slowly things change here. This is not a country or a region with a climate where change happens very quickly, and it does take time. And we've talked about with General Odierno today about that 2011 date that, as you said, gives them 3 more years to try and get the Iraqis up to speed so the U.S. can start to fall back.
And that was his solution to all this. Give us more time, and if you give us more time, we can get more done. Good to see you, David, in person. David McDougal on the ground here in Baghdad.
You bet.
To our viewers at home, Hemmer at FoxNews.com. You got a question about our coverage or what's happening here in Iraq, please. Email lines open right now. We are back live in Baghdad and in New York right after this.